Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be back. I really missed you guys, and I'm really excited for today's live session. I have so much to show you, so let's get started. If you are new here, my name is Nancy with GiftsHQ, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining and taking the time to join us in this live. We're going to have so much fun today. Okay, what did you guys think of those trivia questions? I think I tripped up a couple of people on that one. Oh my gosh, some of them were hilarious. So if you didn't get the answers, let me just give you the recap. The first answer was beeswax. The second one was feed dogs. The third one was a candle. That kind of tripped me up in the beginning too. And the fourth one is called a darning egg. And we're going to talk a little bit about that just in a few. So, guys, I could not do the live last week because I was in New York City. And let me just tell you, I had a blast. So before I get too much into it, I just want to do a quick technology check. If you can see me and hear me, please let me know in the chat, just so that I know that we are okay. And let me just see who we have here. Okay, I see Robin. I see Bariqua Sewing and Crafts. Hello, Crafty Puerto Rican. Hey, how are you? Alicia, thanks for joining. Angela, I'm so happy you're here. Francis, oh wow, from Ireland, first time here. Congrats, thank you for joining. So exciting. I would love to see Ireland one day. Wow, I can't believe you're so far away, and I'm so happy that you joined. Let's see, we've got a couple other people. Hi, alrighty. I think you guys were going right at it at those questions. That's so much fun. I'm glad. I'm so happy you guys enjoy it. I really love doing it for you guys. Okay, let's see. I think you guys can see me. I see we've got 1 Minute Tips from California, Robin's from Maryland, Bariqua Sewing and Crafts from Haymarket, Virginia, Angela from Phoenix, Arizona, Francis again from Ireland, and Alicia from Detroit, Michigan. Wow, I'm so excited. Hey, Evelyn, I know you're in Fort Myers, Florida. You're one of my neighbors. I am from Miami, Florida, and today is a little bit on the rainy side, a little stormy weather that we've been having. There is a hurricane looming that way, but it's not expected to hit us, so I'm really happy about that. Let's see, Crafty Puerto Rican from Maryland, and I think we've got everyone here. Oh my gosh, thank you, Evelyn, loud and clear. So glad you guys can see me and hear me. So, like I said, I went to New York City last week to attend a wedding. And of course, while I was in New York City, I also took the opportunity to just visit a couple of fabric stores. So I was so excited to be there. I hadn't been there in a really long time. So I grew up in New York City. My parents lived in Manhattan, and then we moved to Queens. And then I left to go to school in Rhode Island, which then ended up bringing me to Miami for an internship, which is kind of where I stayed since then. So New York is like a second home to me, but I hadn't been there for a while. And man, I can tell you, my knees and my feet feel it. I did so much walking while I was there. I don't know, maybe I was fit, I was younger, I don't know. It's just amazing that, you know, it was just incredible. So the wedding was absolutely beautiful. Really, really beautiful. I mean, it was outdoor ceremony. The weather was perfect. It was beautiful. And I was really happy to be able to see a lot of people there. And we just had a great time. It was a great time to just kind of mix and mingle. So it was a little, you know, get together moment and, you know, kind of renew with everyone there. So while I was there, again, I saw several fabric stores. And I went to the Garment Fashion District, which is between 34th and 42nd Street and 6th and 9th Avenue. So it's a really busy area, and it's well known for that fashion. Some people call it the Fashion District, some people call it the Garment District. It's gone through a lot of changes through the time, but it's a really fun place to be. And you walk everywhere, and there's tons of stores. I had some issues on the dates that I could get out there because of the wedding and all the other events going on. A lot of the stores were closed when I got there, so I was a little bummed out about that, but I know I'll be back, so I'm not too worried about it. So let me just stop right here. Let me see if we've got any questions, and then I can continue on. Let's see. Yeah, Evelyn says, pray for Puerto Rico. Yeah, Puerto Rico's going to be getting some of the storm that's out there, so a little worried about them, but I don't think it's going to be too bad, because it's more concerned on the flooding side than anything. The winds haven't really picked up as much, so I think they're a little safe on that. But yeah, so far we're in the clear. We're continuing to monitor it, so hopefully everything's fine. It's not too bad outside, so I'm hoping my lights and everything stays put, so we should be good to go. Okay, so Fashion Institute of Technology. This is one of the first things that I saw once I got to that Fashion District area, and they have a very good school there. It's actually really beautiful. This is a picture of just I kind of just took an overhead quick shot, like across the street from it. It's pretty impressive, the school. A lot of friends that I know went to that school, and they do very well. They do really home in a lot on the fashion industry, and that whole area seems to be very focused more on the clothing side. So I like to do a lot of bags, and I'm not so much into the clothes, although I could get into it, but I haven't had time to really dabble so much in it. But in that area, it's really focused on the clothing. And they had, just that school there, and you can kind of walk underneath that underpass. But it seems to be a very, very nice school. So the next thing I went to, which is right nearby on 7th Avenue and 39th Street, I went to the giant needle and button statue. This was so much fun. And as you guys can see, it's huge. It is actually 31 feet tall. And it was put on there in 1990, so kind of old, but not too old. And it's amazing. It was really cool, so I had to go there, had to get pictures. Sometimes they kind of decorate it. It's that little structure that you see that's right nearby it. It's like an information booth area, and I've seen it. Sometimes they decorate it. It depends on the season. They'll put like flowers all over it, and all kinds of stuff. But it's pretty solid there. A lot of people go there to take pictures of it. It's pretty cool. I thought it was really neat, and had a lot of fun there. So right nearby that button and needle statue, right next to it, is the garment worker sewing statue. And this statue is amazing. It's 6.5 feet by 4 feet, and it's a bronze sculpture, and it's been there since 1984. And it's sitting on a foot of about a black marble base. So if you can see on the bottom, that whole base is marble, and then you have the bronze statue on top, and it's just of a gentleman, a typical worker, a typical, garment worker with the sewing machine. I mean, it's really cool. The details that statue had was pretty amazing on there. And then it has like a little plaque in the bottom, and in the bottom it just has like the list of people that contributed to making that statue, available to the public. So It was pretty cool. Let me know if have you guys been to New York? If you have, let me know in the chat. Let me know what your favorite place was. Because I really loved going there and I just thought it was amazing. It was just so much fun. So let me see here. Bariqua Sewing and Craft says, what? I thought New York was a city that never sleeps. So did I. I mean, I was a little disappointed at that. I was kind of like, whoa, what do you mean the stores are closed? And there was one quilt shop that I really wanted to go to, and it was closed. And it was closed on Monday, too. And I was like, what? I was like, how can you be closed on a Monday? So, yeah, I was like, oh, I guess it's going to be another time that I'll have to go to that. So I was a little disappointed at that. I was kind of like, ah. But, let's see. Oh, Crafty Puerto Rican says a lot of people in the island are without electricity already. Oh, no. Oh, the winds must have picked up then, because I read the last time I saw the news last night before I went to bed, they said, it was going to be a flood. And they were more, concerned about the flash flooding. But wow, well, hearts and prayers to them. I hope everything is fine. Alrighty, so let's see. Ellie and Mac is a great site to buy inexpensive clothing patterns. Yes, and Barico, yes, you need to visit that statue and take a picture. Yeah, I did pose with the statue. The picture itself didn't come out that great, but I was, it was okay. Robin says, I was in New York a few years ago and I love Central Park. Yes, I did visit Central Park, but man, I mean, I was kind of all over the place. I mean, we hit Midtown, we did Central Park. I was everywhere, but it was just so much walking. My gosh, I was exhausted. I can tell you that. But, and it's really easy to get around because once you have your Metro card, you can basically go anywhere with the train. It's just jumping in, jumping out. The maps are pretty clear. So, I mean, maybe it's because I've lived there before, so I kind of know how the train works. But I found it to be pretty clear. They had signs out there, the instructions, everything was pretty good. My knee was a little messed up because of all the walking that I did, so it was a little painful going up and down those stairs. Because that's one thing in the train. You're just like up, down, walking here, walking there. It's crazy. But, hey, it's the price you gotta pay, I guess, right? Okay, so Francis says, I was there twice. How did I miss all of these? They're awesome. It's just, there's so much to see in New York. It's just all over the place. Like, I lived there for so long. And, I haven't even seen some of these places. Some of these places I didn't even know existed. So, it's like, it's just too much to see. So, I just wanted to make it a point that when I went there this time, I wanted to hit those two places because I wanted to see those two statues. I don't recall seeing it, and I probably passed by it right a million times, but because I lived there, I never really paid attention to it. So, but it was neat. I just thought it was a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. Crafty Puerto Rican says, I've been there and I love the garment district. I lived in Manhattan and Queens for 3 years. Yes, Crafty Puerto Rican, awesome. So we lived in a town called Rosedale. It's out in Queens, and we lived in Manhattan and Spanish Harlem. So yeah, so let's see. Annette says, oh my God, whoever hears of Rhode Island? I was born and lived in Providence, then Cranston. Oh, Annette. Well, I went to school there. I went to Johnson & Wales University, which is right there in Providence, Rhode Island. So I was there for 4 years, had a blast. And I heard that place has changed completely. Like, they've really upgraded a lot of things there. So that's pretty cool. 1 minute tip says has never been there. Okay, Barico says we've lived in Manhattan. Yeah, 105th Street in Spanish Harlem, and then we moved to Queens. That's right. And Ned says would love to go to the garment industry. Yeah, honestly, a lot of fun. There's just so many things to see in New York. Even if you don't get a chance to hit the garment industries, there's just so many stores and things you can find. It's just amazing. I wanted to kind of give a blend of not just focusing on the fashion industry or the garment industry and looking at fabrics, I wanted to see all kinds of things that you can find in New York, all different crafts. Because if you really take a step back and look, there's just so much going on. So it was just a lot of fun. Okay, so the next place that I hit, now this was in Spanish Harlem. It's a store called Save-A-Thon. And when I came back home, I kind of researched a little bit, and Save-A-Thon actually has a number of stores, which I didn't know. And this store was in Spanish Harlem. Now, funny story about this store here. So, there's a picture of the outside, and it's a pretty big store. So when you walk in, they had these buckets of things that were kind of on sale. And, they had a couple things outside, whatever. So I walk in and I see this bucket, and I see this little wooden thing in the bucket. So I picked it up and I was kind of like, this is odd for a sewing and fabric store to have this little wooden thing. And I was kind of like, what is this? So I asked the lady that worked there, and I said, do you know what this is? And she just said in Spanish, ay, yo no sé, yo creo que es una maraca. Which is basically telling me, oh, I don't know what it is. It looks like a maraca. Oh, this is a maraca. And it looked very similar to that. But it's not a maraca. And I'm like thinking, why would you sell a maraca in a sewing store? But this is what it actually looks like. And no, it is not a maraca. It is actually a darning egg. And that's why we put that last question in there. So for those of you who've never heard of it, a darning egg is what this is called. And I was cracking up for like days because, I asked her and she was like, kind of like, I just work here. I really don't know. I think it's a maraca. Then I asked another gentleman that actually worked at the same store. And he was like, oh yeah, that's a maraca. So I'm like, okay, I know we're in Spanish Harlem, but that's not a maraca, people. And I'm like, this is a fabric store. Why would you sell maracas in a fabric store? But hey, you never know, right? So I just had to laugh. I thought it was super funny. So this is actually what it looks like. So this is the darning egg. It is not a maraca. I guess you could maybe like cut a hole somewhere, put some rice in there, and hey, shake it up. You could make it a maraca. Hey, why not, right? But it is not a maraca. And you can see here, I bought it for $4.99. And it's the brand of the maraca is Dritz. D-R-I-T-Z, Dritz. And Dritz is actually a pretty known brand. They have a lot of sewing and fabric type things. So, I just knew it wasn't a maraca. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance and buy it. It was only $4.99. So I bought it and I said, and I'll research. This has to be for something. So, I bought it, came home, researched it. And I was like, oh, it's like, this is a darning egg. But oh my God, I laughed for days that everyone kept telling me it's a maraca. It's like, no, it's not a maraca. So I thought it was hilarious, but this is actually something that comes in pretty handy, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about this. So what is this used for? So this is used to actually fix areas of wear and tear on your socks or on any type of fabric. So let me just show you, because what I did, I went to the dollar store real quick, and guys, you can get these socks at the dollar store. I was actually impressed with their sock section. They have a pretty good section, and I would never thought to, buy socks at the dollar store. I was going to just like go to Walmart, but they happened to have it. And I was like, hey, this is some pretty good quality here. So the brand is called Peds, and I bought it, and I just got it because I wanted to show you guys exactly how you would use this. So this is just a typical sock. And what this darning egg does, it allows you to repair socks. So we're just gonna pretend like, that how on your socks you sometimes get a hole on the toes after like so many uses, or you might get a little tear on the heel of the sock, or maybe your foot grabbed something and it made a hole on the sock. It happens. And some people make their own socks, so they make like the wool socks. So what can you do to repair it? Well, in order to repair it, you need this darning egg that would help. And the way you would do it is you take your sock and you turn it inside out. All right, that's your first part. When you turn it inside out, you're gonna expose where all the seams are, right? And so what you do is you take your darning egg and you put it inside the sock. And then let's say you're gonna mend, I don't know, the toe area. And by the way, this darning egg, it comes in different sizes. This is the only one that they had, which I think is kind of small. But when I got home and I started looking online, they actually have bigger ones. And they have one that looks like a mushroom almost as well. So I guess it depends, on what it is you're trying to mend. But this is how you would do it, is then you would put the darning egg inside it. And what that does is it exposes the actual seam. So it's a little hard. Maybe I should use the white sock, but we'll try with this one first. But it's kind of hard for you guys to see on camera. I'm going to try to get as close as I can. But it does, you can see the seam here of the actual sock. And what you would do is then you would take a darning needle. And with the darning needle, you would sew the sock. And then what the purpose of the darning egg is that you could then see when you can pull the fabric where it'll expose the actual you can see the actual thread on how it's going on the darning egg. So what the purpose of this is, allowing you to mend the sock with an even tension. Because if you just take a sock and try to mend it, once you turn it inside out, it's kind of wonky, but with the darning egg, it allows you to mend the sock and pull the actual fabric to expose the line that you're trying to mend, or the hole that you have. And then you would take the darning needle and you would sew it, and then that would then allow you to fix the holes. And then when you turn it inside out, you'll see that your sock has an even tension. So I thought that was pretty neat. And I guess, since I'm not so much into the garment sewing as much, I didn't even know that this existed. But it definitely is a tool. It's been around for a very long time. And it's something that, if you mend socks or anything, I guess, that would have like this circular type motion. Like I said, they have different sizes, and they had one like a mushroom size. So, anything that you can cover will ease up the tension to allow you to then take your darning needle and pull it through and actually sew the hole, or if you have a snag or whatever it is that you're trying to fix. But I thought that was hilarious. This was like the funniest part of my whole trip, was with this darning egg and them saying that, hey, this is a maraca. So, I'm even thinking of just, putting Puerto Rico on here or something that, so I'll always remember that this is my maraca darning egg. I might just even call it maraca, what, I just thought it was hilarious. But that's how you would use it, and that's what it's used for. And apparently it's been around for a really long time, and people use them to mend their socks or any type of a circular type thing. If you needed to mend the heel, you would kind of do the same thing. You'd put it in to the heel, and then you would start sewing. And remember, the darning needles are the ones that have the little bend on the tip. So definitely, something that you'll need in order to mend any socks using this darning egg. So let me just pause right now, see if you guys have any questions, comments. I know that was a full story there, but I just thought it was hilarious. It was something else, I could tell you. Okay, so Barrico's asking, were you able to peek into the windows of the stores to see what they had? Some of them yes, and some of them no. Some of them had like this dark film on the windows, so you couldn't really see anything. And then some of them, had, but I guess it's New York, they when they closed down, they put everything away from the windows, so there wasn't too much that I could see. I could kind of peek through and see some things here and there, but not too much. Other thing is there's a lot of construction going on, so a lot of the stores were covered by these scaffolds. So it was a little hard to kind of see, is that a fabric store? Like it was a little difficult, but I did the best that I could. Let's see. Family music time, yeah. Alrighty, the dollar store is stepping it up. Yes, they are. Barrico Sewing and Crafts, they have some really neat socks. They also had some shirts, some t-shirts. And, I'm telling you guys, stop at that dollar store before you go anywhere else. See what they have, because sometimes you can, pick that stuff up, and it's amazing what you can get. Like, I've gotten really impressed. Alrighty. So, Barrico says, I want one with a Puerto Rican flag on it. All right, so Barrico's asking, is the darning needle the round needle? So the darning needle is the one that has a little bit of an the tip is actually has a little bit of a edge that's bent. So it's just like a straight needle, but then it has a little bent tip on the end. That's what the darning needle is. I tried to find one right before we got on. I couldn't find it, so I'll see if I can get one for next week's live, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay. Marico says, I guess Carlito and Fred's socks have tension that is way out of whack. Yes. And a lot of people just don't even mend socks anymore, but if you actually make your socks like you can on either the machine or by hand, you may want to mend it, or if you have wool socks or things like that. So Barrico's asking, what type of sewing machines did you see in the sewing store in Spanish Harlem? Well, like on the picture, they didn't really have like any industrial type of machines. They had, it is Spanish Harlem, so they have to cater to their customers. So a lot of the machines that they had there were like the lower end type brands. So it was like, ones that would work, but it doesn't have like the decorative stitches and, the automatic needle threader and, any of those bells and whistles that we like to have on machines. These machines didn't have that stuff. They were more strictly, just for a straight sew. You can do maybe a back stitch on it, but it didn't have any of that fancy stuff. So it was more like, here's a sewing machine. And they had some good brands of them. They had Brother, they had a bunch of other brands that are known, but they were the simpler type machines. Nothing too fancy on them. So Evelyn says, I use the Dollar Tree t-shirts to practice my embroidery on knits. Yes, Evelyn, there's so many things that you can get at the Dollar Tree that you can use to practice. You can get felt, you can get fabric itself. I have a ton of fabric that I get from the Dollar Tree, and that's where I do all my samples from. And they have all kinds of other craft items. They have needles, they have, anything you can think of, vinyl. They have, just go by there. They have like a whole craft section now. So I think they realize that crafting is really big. So they've expanded on it, and you can see like little hats. You can get, actually, I think I have one here. I have this here. This is just a bandana. And this bandana I picked up at the Dollar Tree. And this is something you can practice on. You know, this is something you can embroider on it, you can sew it. I mean, you can do all kinds of things with this. So I like to pick up these simple little things that will help me, you know, to kind of do all of these things. So I thought, you know, that stuff's pretty neat, but you know, you never know what you're going to find because they change it up all the time. Okay. So let's see, let's move on. The next thing I want to talk about is another fabric store that I went to. It was called eBad Fabrics. And this place was pretty neat. So let me just grab a couple of things that I want to show you from there. Okay, so eBag is on 8th Avenue. And I did get their card. This is their card here. Here, focus a little. Okay, and I mean it's a small shop. It you know, it's not a huge place, and a lot of the places in New York really are not huge because it's New York. You know, real estate's super expensive, so they're really tiny shops, and they condense like a ton of fabric and things all in the one place. But this place had, you know, fabrics, you know, they put them like in these big buckets and they put them outside so you can see them and, you know, throw like their sales and stuff. But this one had like a scaffold in front of it, so it was a little hard to see. So that's the store itself. But I can tell you that what I got from there was pretty cool. And let me just grab it from here and kind of threw some of these in my bag, and actually made this bag, if you guys like it. It was something that I made I think last year or so, but I did this actually using I signed up for the Crafty Gemini courses, and you know, she's got some real nice courses. This was like a bag, I think it was last year, but I followed her instructions, picked my fabric, and made this really cute bag with the cinch on the top, and it has some pockets inside. So just something that, you know, I like, and I really love the bag, how it came out, and I use it a lot. So let me just show you what I got from eBag. And this was pretty interesting because I've never seen this sold like this. So on here, this fabric actually has its fabric with the embroidery already on there, which I thought was like, wow, I've never seen it like that. But I just got a yard of it, and this one has a teddy bear with balloons, and it's like an applique, and it's a very light drapey fabric, but it already has the applique on it, so they've already embroidered it, so you can actually purchase the fabric with the embroidery on there already. So I thought that was pretty neat, and it kind of just repeats throughout. So you've got, like, you know, all these embroidery pieces here, and what you can do is you can kind of cut it out. If you want to just make like a little pillow, you can just cut out that piece and make a pillow with it, or you could keep it intact, maybe make a blanket. You can even quilt it. So I mean, I thought it was really neat the way they did that. Now the stitching on the embroidery, not too bad. You know, I don't see much puckering or anything like that on here. It's, you know, it's done pretty well. And they had a couple of other ones there, but you know, it was just one. I just wanted to pick up a couple just to show you guys, but I thought it was really interesting. Have you guys ever seen that, like embroidery? Let me know in the chat, you know, if you've seen that, because I've never seen them actually selling the fabric with their embroidery already on it like this, you know. And it has like, it's the teddy bears kind of, you know, in random places on the fabric. So it makes it really neat because, you know, I mean, you can, like I said, you can cut them out to do just, let's say, a pillow with one teddy bear on it, or multiple teddy bears on it if you want to do like a longer pillow. or you could keep it intact and make it like a little quilt. So let me know if you've seen that. I've never seen this before, so I just thought it was pretty neat how they had that, and it was relatively inexpensive. But they did have a number of them. They had the teddy bear, they had one with like a balloon, and all kinds of others. But I thought this one was, one of the cuter ones, so I went ahead and got this one to start off. So let me just check the chat, see if you guys have any questions. Let's see here. Evelyn says, love the fabric, looks vintage. Robin says, adorable. Oh, Robin says, that's a cute bag. Thanks, Robin. Robin says she's never seen that before. I haven't either. 1 Minute Tip says, interesting. No, he hasn't seen it. Price, Evelyn, the price, let me see if it was on that ticket, because I brought two things. I believe it was about $7 or $8 a yard. Yeah, because I bought two of them. It was like $7.99 or $8 a yard on that. So I was like, a little pricey, but it already has the applique on there, which is what I kind of liked. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see. Brooke said, yes, we saw that at the fabric shop in Miami, the expensive one. Oh, so Barriqua says she saw it, and now if she's talking about the expensive one, she's probably talking about Rex, which is located somewhere on Bird Road in Miami. And that's, it's a really high-end fabric type store. They make like wedding gowns and, high-end dresses and things like that. But yeah, super expensive. But yeah, I didn't pay that price. So I thought this was neat. I'm looking to see what I'm gonna do with this. Not quite sure yet. 1 Minute Tips, first time for everything. That's not a bad price, Robin. Yeah, I thought it wasn't too bad. Now, the second one that I got, it's kind of similar, but this one, let me move this over. This one has little flowers, and it's almost like hand embroidery because it has like little ribbons and stuff. So let me see if I can get this closer to you. There. So you can see how it has these flowers, and it almost looks like it's hand embroidery, but I know it just can't be. But it does have like little ribbons in here, and they're just like randomly all over the fabric and different colors. So, it makes it look really neat. So I thought it was really cute. Now, it is also the same light drapery type fabric. So, anything that in addition that you're going to put to this will need a pretty heavy stabilizer, because this will definitely pucker up if you try to just add something to it. But it already has these flowers that are here, and it's basically ribbons, different color ribbons. It's got the green ribbon on the outside, then it has a white ribbon on the outer, and then the inner part is like almost like a peachy type color. And it has different ones, so there's different ones all over the place, and they're just kind of randomly placed all around the fabric. And I thought that was pretty neat. So, this is just something new, something different. Okay, Robin says, oh, pretty. Barriqua says, oh, I love the flowers. 1 Minute Tip says, super cute. Oh, and Barriqua says, don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, guys, if you like the video, please go ahead and hit the button. Thanks so much. Robin says, dress or a tablecloth. Yes, this could definitely be a dress or a tablecloth. I mean, I've only bought a yard of it, but this is something you could definitely add. Let's say you want to cinch it with an elastic on the top and just kind of have it flowing. You could have that too. Just so many things. You could do a table runner with this. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with this. If you want to cut it up, you could do that too, and just take like a line, because it seems like the colors that they put on here are kind of coordinated by row. So if like you cut out the row, like you'll have this color. If you cut this row out, you'll have this color. Or if you want to go this way, you can too. So to give it that, just a small ribbon with the flower, and it's just a continuous pattern that it has. So I just thought it was a really neat fabric, and I thought, this is something I can work with. So I went ahead and just got a yard of it just to, test it out. It's definitely a pretty neat place. They had a bunch of other stuff that it was all like kind of like by the wall, but they did have a lot of wintry type fabrics, like really clothing fabrics. So it was all that drapery stuff, and I was looking more for like home type fabrics so I can make pillows and other things with. So wasn't too much for me there, except for these fabrics that I found, which I thought were really neat. But again, it's the fashion district, so a lot of it is related to the clothing. So that's kind of where I stopped there. So now let me see, there was another place that I went to, and this place was called True Mark Fabrics. And let me see if I can get the picture for you. Yeah, so True Mark Fabrics, I was able to pick up 2 fabrics from there as well. And they didn't have scaffolds in front, but they had a bunch of other things around the area, and they had the buckets outside. You can see people were looking through the fabrics and things like that. But again, it was more catered towards the clothing. And this is one of the fabrics that I picked up. It's kind of a wintry fabric. So I guess, we're in September. So, they're breaking out all the winter stuff. So it was all wintry fabrics out there. And this one, it's a little bit thicker cotton. I liked the pattern. It's just kind of like a plaid type thing. I just thought it was really pretty. And I thought I could do something like this, even for, if I wanted to make a pillow or something that, or maybe like a skirt. I thought this would be really nice, just as a skirt. I'm like, I could kind of dabble in that. So it's a very nice fabric. I love the feel of it. And it's pretty sturdy, has a little bit of a stretch to it. So you can kind of pull, but not too much of a pull. It just does give a little bit. And if you tug the other way, there's on both sides, there's a little bit of a stretch to it, which is kind of nice. So I don't think I'll embroider anything on this, but I think what I want to do is perhaps make like a little nice skirt with this. So that's one that I picked up. And the second one that I got there was just something that, I wanted to get more of to see if I can try out. It's just a very simple white fabric, but this is more satin. So it's got a little bit of that shimmer to it. And let me just kind of open it up here. I had it inside out to kind of protect it. So you see that shimmery satin look. So I just got about a yard of that, and I'm thinking I can practice embroidering on satin because it was a challenge. There was a lot of puckering and things that happen when you're doing satin. The stabilizer that you use, some people use 2 pieces of the tearaway. Some people just use cutaway. But it really depends on the design itself that you're picking. If it's a really dense design, you gotta really use a heavy stabilizer, because satin is like very sensitive when it comes to the embroidering, and it will definitely pucker if you don't use a good stabilizer with that. So have you guys embroidered on satin before? I know I've tried it myself. First time, it didn't come out so great. Second time was a little bit better. But, I'm still kind of dabbling to kind of perfect the technique on this one. So if you have any suggestions on embroidering on the satin, let me know, because I think, this was one of more of a challenging one, especially for beginners out there. Embroidering on satin really is a little difficult if you're not familiar with the types of stabilizers that you should be using. So let's just see. Let me just check on the chat to see if you guys have any suggestions on this. Let's see. Okay, yeah, would make a nice pillow for your patio. Some people said it would make a great skirt. I'm guessing you're talking about this fabric. Yes. 1 minute tips. I love the fabric. Just all the things I could dream to do with it. Robin says you can never have too much fabric. No, you can't, Robin. Trust me. I'm the queen of fabric. I think I can open up my own little store. I like to go and I just wish I had more time to do more projects. It's crazy with the kids and, you know, just work, this, that, the other. It's like keeping up with everything is just really difficult. Sometimes I wish I can just close the door and lock myself in here for like a week and just do nonstop projects. Because I have projects that I start and I don't get to finish, and, you know, so I just need to keep myself focused. Okay. Oh, I think satin is hard to sew and because it's slippery. Yeah, never embroidered on it, but have sewed with it. So Robin says she has sewed with it. It is a slippery fabric, so it is difficult. It's kind of like the tulle. So if you remember back a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the tulle, and I did a couple things with the tulle. You know, it's kind of the same thing. You know, tulle it's a little difficult to work with because it slips and slides as you're trying to sew it. So satin is kind of that same thing. It's got that slippery, you know, feel to it. So it's difficult to kind of keep it together. And you don't want to pin, because if you pin, you're going to poke holes into this and it, you know, it'll show. So definitely instead of pinning, you're going to want to use your sewing clips to keep things in place. But it's a little difficult, but this is the type of fabric that you just take it really slow and you do it a little bit at a time. So, but it's definitely something, you know, I'm going to dabble a little bit more on. Let's see. You have to slow down the machine to embroider on satin. No show mesh stabilizer for the embroidering on satin. Use temporary adhesive to keep the fabric stable. Yeah, definitely. You know, and another thing that you can do if you're, let's say, not so much for embroidery, but like if you are sewing with the fabric, you know, starch. It's a great way to stabilize your fabric and to keep it from moving. So it kind of hardens the fabric so that you can get your sewing done, and then it will allow you to just kind of pass through the needle and it doesn't shift as much. So that's definitely something that you want to use for that. Okay, Bariko also says you also want to use 65/9 needles so the holes are very small. Yes, check the needles, check the stabilizers. There's a lot of lists that are out there that you can use that tell you the stabilizers to use, the needles to use, and, you know, just got to put in the type of fabric that you have. And it'll tell you, it'll adjust and tell you the, you know, the correct needle and stabilizers that should be used for that specific fabric. But you do have to remember, that's just one side of the equation. You know, getting the right needle, getting the right stabilizer is only one piece. You still also have to look at the design that you are going to embroider. So is your design dense? It have a ton of stitches, you know, especially in one place. You know, if your design is very heavy, it's always best to go with a heavy stabilizer. If you have a lighter design, then you should be good. But those are, you know, anytime you are doing some type of embroidery, you know, you definitely want to look at what needle am I using, what stabilizer am I using, and what type of design am I putting onto this fabric, or, you know, whatever material it is that you're using, because that does make a big difference on that. So definitely check up on those three things when you are looking to embroider something. And then when you're sewing something, you know, look at the starch, look at your fabric, figure out, you know, is it very drapey? Is it a stiffer fabric? think about what you are passing through that machine and the needle that you're using to poke that material to get the thread going. Okay, so let's see. Great information. Yeah, Jeanette, thanks for the information. So guys, anytime you guys have anything that will help me out here, it helps out this group, we definitely can use any information that you can. Put it in on our group chat. You can put it in on our Facebook page, GiftsHQ USA. Definitely, we like to have, everyone sharing information. That's just what makes us better. Okay, so these are the materials that I picked up, or the fabrics that I picked up. So I want to show you some other crafts that I found as I was walking around New York City. And there was this one place, it was like a stand, and they had all of these different items on the table. And at first I wasn't sure what it was, and as I got closer, I realized, oh my gosh, these are things that you can do like with a Cricut machine. So these are paper crafts. And they're like little, think about like those pop-up cards, where they kind of pop up, but these are just like stands. And they had all kinds of different things, from Ferris wheels to things that look like little china. Like it was really, really nice. I was really impressed with the work that they made. Now, the guy was selling it for about $15 to $20 on the street there. So I don't know if you guys do any card work with your Cricuts, or maybe you just do it by hand. There seems to be a market for it, because there were people buying it, and it actually was really beautiful. I was blown away by the quality of the work. The time it must have taken to create those, I'm not sure if he was doing it with a Cricut machine or some type of other cutting machine. I'm sure he's got to be using something, but I was impressed the way that they looked, and it was really beautiful. And that was just, another craft out there that you can find. We have embroidery, we have sewing. These are paper crafts. We looked at cards last week or the week before. We embroidered cards, and this is just another craft that you could do, with the card embroidery. You can kind of do both, the pop-up with the embroidered cover. So it's just something I thought was really nice. I really enjoyed seeing that. And then the next one that I saw was made out of wood. And I wish I had gotten a closer up picture, but these actually are little designs and things that he made that are carved out of wood. And I was really impressed with that as well. I thought that was another neat craft, that people make, and really creative stuff. He's got some wonderful items out there, just again selling it on the street. I'm sure that there's a market. I don't know if anyone on the Etsy shop maybe has this kind of stuff, or anywhere out there, but these are some really neat ideas and creative ways to just demonstrate an item that you want to do. So I thought it was pretty cool. So, those are a lot of the crafts that I saw, sewing stuff. The quilting store that I wanted to go to, again, was closed. I was a little disappointed at that. But they really didn't have too many things for quilting. So the fabric district was really geared towards clothing. So, I did what I could there, saw the statues. But then the other place I wanted to visit was 9/11. Now, I went the weekend of 9/11 to New York, so I needed to, stop by, and I've never been to the museum. Now, for 9/11, I visited when the towers came down, and I remember that they still, it was still kind of there, and it was really dusty, and they weren't allowing people to go through certain areas, but, it was very somber. But I always wanted to go back and see it. And for 9/11, you see the fountain there. I did visit the museum inside, and guys, it was just amazing. I mean, if you go there, this is the fire truck that was at the scene on that day, and you can see how it's all melted, and Like it was just wow. It was really impressive, and it's amazing to kind of go through there. And they had like recordings where you could hear people who were calling their loved ones, leaving messages for them. People that were on the plane that was going down, calling their loved ones for the last time, and it was just amazing what they had in that museum. It was a nice history to walk through that and see it, and it was just a nice way to kind of, just go there and reflect, and it was just amazing. So I was really really impressed with the museum and the outside as well. So let me just give a pause here and see if you guys have any other questions. Let's see. Okay, Jeanette says, yep, paying attention to your design type that you're using, very important, correct. The Robin says, that takes a lot of time and precision. It does, Robin. Those crafts were really impressive. I was amazed with what they did there. Let's see. Wow, that's talent. Was that in Spanish Harlem? No, that was actually in the Midtown area. As you were walking around, they had a couple of people. Now, I remember the last time I went there, they also had a guy that was like spray painting and making these beautiful paintings with spray paint, but I couldn't find them anywhere. I'm like, I don't know, maybe that's not a thing anymore, but I remember people doing that. They would use these templates and they would spray paint on like cardboard or a bigger template, and they would make these beautiful designs. And I couldn't find them anywhere, so I don't, maybe that's just old, who knows. Alrighty. Yes, 9/11. I would like to visit the memorial. Robin, yeah, it leaves an impression on you. It's a nice thing to visit. Okay, Mariko says she visits every year. She lost some of her coworkers that day. Alrighty, yeah. I mean, it was. 3,000 people died on that day, so it was, very somber. But, actually, it was just something that I really wanted to do. Now, that's all I had for my New York City trip. And then I had a couple things that I did buy before I left. And let me just bring that out to you real quick. This is something that it's called the Quilt Binding Express, and it does look like this. Right, so really it's just like a little ironing pad on top with some holes here on the side. It has a 2¼ inch slot here. This is a 2½ one, and this is a 2-inch, and this is for binding. So if you are making a quilt and you do need some help on the binding, sometimes how you have that long strip of fabric, you have to fold it in half. Sometimes it shifts around and it gets a little difficult to kind of hold the iron and bind it together. So this kind of helps. And what you would do with this is, let me see if I can find not a binding strip. So let's just pretend this was a binding strip and you needed to fold this in half. Depending on the size that you're using, and it has the typical size, like I said, 2-inch, 2½ inch, or 2¼ you would then take that and put it through the slot. And of course, you would have it nicely folded. And then what that does, it kind of holds it in place for you so that then you can take your iron and you can just iron it to make it stay flat. So it's kind of like, and then you can kind of pull it as you go. So, sometimes it's a little difficult because you're trying to fold it and hold it and iron it all at the same time. So this is kind of like a third arm for you to help you bind it together. So you put depending on the size of the binding strip that you're trying to do, you would put it through the slot. And then once you put it through the slot, it kind of lands on this pad that then you can then take your iron and just iron it flat. So that's just something that I saw, wanted to let you guys know. I don't know who knows that these are out there, but it's a pretty neat way to just kind of give you that little extra help when you're doing a binding for your quilting stuff. And the last thing I have is this binding tool, and this is by Fons and Porter. And all it is just a little, let me see if I can put it here because it'll show better. This is just like a little template, like a ruler almost. And it's just a square. And all this does is to help you bind your, when you have that really long binding strip and you're joining the two pieces together to finish it off. This helps you line it up and make the cut correctly so that when you sew them together, they come out exactly where they're supposed to be and you don't have one piece going longer than the other. So this is just a little handy tool. Again, it's by Fons and Porter. It does come with these little instructions for you. They're pretty easy to follow. So this is just something that, you know, if you want to get a little tool for your binding, if you're needing some help on when you're binding your stuff, your quilts, then these tools are available out there. And I, you know, highly recommend, especially this Quilt Express for me. Sometimes I just need that third hand to hold it down for me, and this actually works really well. So let me know in the comments if, you know, you have these and if you use them. You know, I want to know your opinion. What do you think of those? You know, I find them to be really useful. Don't know how long these things have been out in the market, but it's just something that I picked up when I saw it in, I think it was in Joann's that day. And I think it's just something that's, you know, helps me out whenever I'm quilting my items and trying to bind it together. So let's just take another quick look. If I have any other questions. The 1 minute says, where did you get it? This was Joann's is where I got it from. Miss Nancy, I learned so much, so many things with this. I love this. Thank you so much. No problem. 1 minute tips. Glad you enjoyed it. Robin says, I need them both. Robin, you know you're that little expert. What are you talking about? I think you have like 20 hands. I've seen your work and it is absolutely beautiful. But yes, definitely, you know, if you need that extra hand, you know, it's just pretty neat. I actually really love, especially the Binding Express, because the other thing that it has here on the actual, you know, cushion where you put your iron, it does have that pattern and it helps you line it up. So when you are putting it down, you know, you can tell if you're off or not. Like, you know, it keeps you on point, right? So I kind of like that because it has that measurement. Again, the 2 1/4, the 2 1/2, and the 2-inch binding. So that's the only one that I saw. So I don't know if they have other sizes. They may or may not. You might want to check it out there. I'm sure Amazon probably has it too. You know, you can check around, but it was called Quilt Binding Express. And it is by J. Taylor. And that is the actual little piece of, you know, material that was on the side here when I bought it. So I thought it's nice. Barico says, use those coupons. Definitely. You know, we're the coupon queens. We love our coupons. So definitely you can check that out and see if you like that. So guys, I think we have touched upon everything that I had here. I know we talked a little bit all over the place on a lot of things, and I just wanted to share my experience with you as I went to New York. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I really hope if you have any questions or anything, please drop it in the chat or send me, you know, put it on our Facebook group, because I'll get back to you and I'll research anything that you guys are struggling with. I'll try to help. So I definitely want to keep the conversations going and keep the interaction in our little community. I really love you guys. This has absolutely been a joy. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.